An Evelyn War on like a painter, or Evelyn War on like a war hero, something like that. I reckon he would read something that's very like complex but like incredibly fun. Or maybe that's just me, I don't know.
I think he's probably fairly reasonably well read. Fitzwilliam is very surprised when he can speak a little bit of Igbo, and there's another couple of languages that he speaks, and I'm sure he's fairly well read in a number of languages, so it could almost be anything, or it could well be, you know, something by Arthur Conan Doyle, you know.
Probably books about travel, because she lives a rather secluded life in this little village. So I think she probably would yearn to travel, because she'd been through the war and nobody travelled. So that would probably be what she would most like to do, and most read about, probably.
Well, it's going to have to be something not too difficult to read, because I would say Mrs. Pearce is not a scholar. But at the same time, I think she probably, back in her day, was a little bit saucy. So I reckon she's reading something like Anais Nin, Delta of Venus, because that gets a little bit saucy in places.
I mean, she'd probably like Sally Rooney, because I think she has communication issues, just like lots of those characters. Yeah, and I think there's something. Yeah, I think she'd be reading normal people, I would say.
I don't know if books are that important to Whitfield. I think quotations that can back up his life view are important, and if they're pulled from books that people have heard of, even better. But I think if you'd asked him what his favourite book was, he couldn't name one. The Bible, he'd say.
The Rev is reading The Catcher in the Rye, which was published in 1951. That feeling it gives you, that book, is one of kind of like wonder. I think he is that kind of the personification of that kind of feeling, you know, and decency, you know. So yeah, I think he'd identify with Holden.
I think she'd be reading something about back home, where she came from. Maybe she might be reading one of the writers that she grew up reading, because this is the way that she remembers home or looks back sometimes at where she came from.